Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back and happy Friday. All right, we have three new challenge questions, and we also have a new challenge question. Um, A is review yet again with subtracting fractions. We do not want to forget that skill, and then jumping back into multiplication. I want to see if you really understand how to multiply with powers of 10, meaning the numbers end with a zero. You can cross those zeros out, multiply, and then add the zeros back to your answer. And then C, you are multiplying by what they call scientific notation, or there's a couple different names for it. And you are going to just kind of tell me what happens with the decimal. Oops, giving you that answer, I guess. But you know what? Hopefully, you guys rocked this question already in these questions in your Google Doc. Um, but the answer here is yes. What you are going to do is the pattern is 15, 16, 17. So the entire first six rows is going to be continue that pattern for the last three parts. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Add those all together and you get 105 carbs. All right, just a reminder, when you have 10 as your base and you're putting it to a power, because that's what you call the little number on top of the power, it's saying multiply the base that many times by itself. So that 10 to the third power, again, is 10 times 10 times 10. And then also, whenever 10 is your base, it just tells you how many zeros there's going to be. So 10 to the third power is 1 with 3 zeros, it's 1,000. And then also remember, as I just told you, when a number ends in a zero, you can cross that zero out, multiply the remaining numbers. 5 times 6 is 30. Now go ahead and add those zeros back to your answer. There's two zeros crossed off. Add the two zeros. The answer is 3,000. And then the newest addition to our remember, what we learned yesterday, is going to be the area model. So what this is an example of is 28 times 47. You have one box 28 by 47, and you're just going to break it into its place values. So the top is going to be a 20 box and an 8, and the side is going to be a 40 and a 7. Now that they're more basic numbers because we know how to multiply by powers of 10, we could do all these in our head. 20 times 40, get rid of the zeros. 2 times 4 is 8, add the zeros back. So that answers 800. And then the green box is 8 by 40. Ignore the zero. 8 times 4 is 32. And then add the zero back. That's 320. And then the purple one down here is 20 by 7. 7 times 2 is 14. Add the zero is 140. And then the blue box is just the little guys, the ones by the ones, 8 times 7, which is 56. So remember, the point of these different methods is to make it so they're problems that you could do in your head by breaking it down to their place values, figuring out the answer. Now we have to add all those complex numbers up to find the real answer or the area of the full square. And that answer here is 1,316. So the area model is a totally acceptable model for multiplying. Today we're going to learn the traditional method for multiplying. And then on Monday, we're going to learn my favorite, the lattice method. And then through those three methods, the goal and the plan here is that you all have a method that you can master where you can multiply double digit numbers efficiently and effectively. All right, multiplying with the traditional method. As you see on the left, I'm giving you guys an example of a single digit, which is 3 by a double digit, which is 25. And as you probably already know, this is a whole lot easier to do. So 25 times 3, you have your 25, you have your 3, and now all you are going to do is you are going to multiply the ones, right? 5 times 3 is 15. The one, so I always try to anticipate where students are going to make mistakes, right? One area that you could possibly make a mistake is when you multiply 5 by 3, you might forget what you're supposed to do with the 1, right? Because this answer here is 15. So you might be like, yeah, I just don't remember what to do with the 1. Well, you always put the 1 in the tens place, okay? And then 5 times 3 is 15, so the 5 goes here. Okay? So 5 goes there, the 1 goes up here, and then now you multiply 20 by 3, right? 2 times 3 is 6, but you have to add that 1 that you got from 5 times 3. So 6 plus 1 is 7. So that's 25. 3 times is 75. Now watch how it gets a little more complicated when you multiply a double digit by a double digit. You have your 25, you have your 23. The first thing that you always want to do is you want to take the ones place and multiply it by the ones place. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15. You do also have to put your 1 up here in the above the tens place because it's 15 ones, right? And then 15 ones is a 10, just like when you add. Now you do 3 times 2, which is 6, but you're going to have to add that 1. So what you're actually doing here is you're doing 25 times 3, which you did over here as well. So, but are you finished? No. We're done with the ones place. So now we have to figure out what 25 times 20 is, okay? So up here we have this 1 that we don't want anymore. Why don't we want it? Because we've used it. We used it. So what you do with the traditional method is you, with double digit, is you're basically saying what's 25 times 3, come up with an answer, and then what's 25 times 20 and come up with an answer. And because 20 is a power of 10, you can ignore that 0, add it to your answer, and then multiply. 5 times 2 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 25 times 20 is 500. Now watch how that happens over here. So we already did 25 times 3. Now we're doing 25 times 20, right? So what do you do when you're multiplying by 20? You get rid of the 0 and you add the 0 to your answer, right? So this row right here is 25 times 20, and this row right here is 25 times 3. So because it's 25 times 20, I'm putting that magic 0 at the end. Now I'm multiplying 5 times 2, which is 10, right? It's 10, so my 0 is going there. So this 0 is my magic 0. 10, and then I put the 1 up here. Okay, now 2 times 2 is 4 plus the 1 from 10, which 4 plus 1 is 5. So just to tell you once more, this is 25 times 3 right here, and this is 25 times 20 right here, and I just have to add those two together. Okay, now when I add them together, I get 5 plus 1, 0 is 5, 7 plus 0 is 7, 5 plus nothing is 5. Now, I understand that I talked a lot over here, and I also understand that this is complicated. Now, most people that have been taught double-digit multiplication, this is how they've been taught. And you basically have to memorize. Do this first, and then do this, and then add this, and then that answer's here, and then multiply over here, and then that, and then multiply over here, and then add this if you can, and then when you multiply those together, you add, and then you come up with an answer. That's difficult to understand and to remember every single step. Therefore, there's a lot of people that never understand how to do this, okay? And there's a lot of people that make a lot of mental errors, and you don't get the answer right as many times as you should. So for those reasons, I am not a huge fan of the traditional method. Now, when I was going to college learning how to be a teacher, this was the only method I knew, and I was a huge fan. And it took me a lot of years to learn that this is not your best method. So I'm not going to be one of those teachers that force you to learn one method. I'm forcing you to learn the best method for you. All right. So today I'm going to show you these, a couple different methods, but remember, I'm never that teacher that tells you you have to learn this certain method. I'm going to show you the different methods, and the method that works the best for you is the one you're going to use. So I'm going to rewrite the answer to number 1 because I don't like it. I think it's confusing. It says explain the steps for the place value rows method. Once again, don't worry about the names of these methods. All they're saying is, hey, this method's a little different than the method you learned yesterday. Let's look at it. Well, they're taking 67 and multiplying 43. The only difference between this and yesterday is they're not turning 67 into 60 and 7. They're saying because with the traditional method, if you multiply 67 by 3 and 67 by 4, those are easy. But 67 times 43 is hard. So they're going to say, let's just take one of the numbers, keep it the same, and the other number, let's break into a 10 and a 1. Now, does it matter if you break the 67 or the 43? No, it doesn't. Here they chose 43. Okay. So it says explain the steps for this. So please write this in your book on page 147. The steps here turn into 2 boxes. One side, choose one of them to turn into a tens place and a ones place. So here they chose 43 to turn into 40 and 3, and that's your 2 boxes. Now multiply and add. So up here you get 67 times 40. It's easy to do because you cross 0 out, put your 0 here. 4 times 7 is 28. 6 times 4 is, what did I say? Yeah, 28. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 2 is 26. So there's your answer. And then 67 by 3 is 21. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20, so it's 201. So it says, how is that different from what you learned yesterday? Well, it's different from what you learned yesterday. Once again, ignore this. Ignore this. How is it different than what we learned yesterday? That's the way that I want to approach this. So they're alike because they both are using area models, and they are different because this model is turning the original box into 2 boxes instead of 4. Remember, yesterday we turned it into 4 boxes. Okay? So let's do a couple of these. So down here we have 28 times 34. So we're going to keep 34 the same, and we're going to turn 28 into 20 and 8. And remember, you will learn this way better if you just write it down in your book. Make sure you're writing it down in your book, and I'm going to message your parents on Dojo that you should have all of page 149 and 150 completed in your book. So 34 times 20, it's 34 times 20. You can cross off the 0 and add it to your answer. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. So that's 680. And then 34 times 8. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 3 is 8. 16, 24, 25, 26, and 27. So that is 272. Now to get the real answer of 34 times 28, you simply add 680 and 272, and your answer is 952. Looking at 4 using this method, 73 times 59, we take 59, break it into 50 and 9, and you multiply. You multiply first 73 times 50. 73 times 50 is the same thing as 73 times 5, and then you add the 0 to your answer. First is 5 times 3, which is 15. And then 5 times 7, which is 35, plus 1, which is 36. Answer is 3,650. And then on the bottom, it's 73 times 9. 73 times 9 is 957. Okay, 9 times 3 is 27. 7 times 9 is 63, plus 2 is 65. And then you add those two together to get your answer, and your answer is 4,307. So here it says, let's look at, what are they calling this method? this is kind of a version of the traditional method. There's a little bit of a difference. I'm not going to sit here and explain it this way to you. Okay, we're not going, I mean, you guys will listen to me. That's me discussing this conversation right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you once again how to do this with the traditional method. Okay, 67 times 43. All I want you to do is maybe right here on your paper, try the traditional method. You could pause the video and try to do this on your own with the traditional method, or just pay attention to mine and write it down here when I'm finished. So 67 times 43, 7 times 3 is the first thing you do, which is 21. Oops, we forgot the 2. I'll write it right here, 2, 21. And then, so you do this first, 6 times 3 is 21. I'm sorry, 7 times 3 is 21. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 2 is 20. So remember, this first row is 67 times 3. Now this row is 67 times 40. You put your 0 here first because it's your magic 0. Now you do 4 times 7, which is 28. 28. And then you do 6 times 4, which, what's 6 times 4 is 24, right? And then you add 2 more, it's 26. And now we're going to add the 2 together. 1 plus 0 is 1. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 2 is 8. And then 2 comes down. So it's 2,881. Now, once again, I'm not a big fan of this method. There's a lot of stuff that could go wrong here. And if it's the first or second time you've ever seen this, this is confusing, right? This over here actually makes more sense. And this is still not my favorite method. But this makes a heck of a lot more sense. It's cleaner and it's easier to understand. All right, let's move on. So here, I didn't hide those at all. You know what? You guys are going to have a lot of work here, so don't worry about this, right? If you want, you could just go ahead and write in the answers for these 3. You want extra practice, go ahead and try to figure these out using any method. But like I said, we're going to be working on a lot of problems here. All right, let's look at these together. As you can see, you're going to have a Google Doc for these 4 questions, and those 4 questions are going to be your homework that I want you to work out. If you're using a calculator for these and coming up with the answers, it's really going to hurt you. So do not use a calculator and come up with these answers. I would recommend using that area model, the box model, right? Probably yesterday's, but if today's box model works better for you, great, use those. And I will use the traditional method on 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then here, I'm not going to use the traditional method. Here, I will go ahead and I will make the area model over here and use the area model. So 42 times 5. We can use the traditional method because this is easy. And if you want to pause the video, come up with all these answers first and then check it with me, that's great. 5 times 2 is 10. You put a 1 here. And then 5 times 4 is 20. 20 plus 1 is 21. So your answer is 210. Over here, it's 37 times 9. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 3 is 27. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. So that answer is 333. And then over here, we have 4 times 2, which is 8. 4 times 4, which is 16. You put your 1 here and your 6 here. 7 times 4, which is 28, plus 1 is 29. So it's 2968, 2,968. 3 times 2 is 6. I'll put it down here. 5 times 2 is 10, so we're going to put a 1 up there and a 0 down here. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1 is 11. And you get 11,106. 11,106. Over here, 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. 6 times 2 is 12. So that answer is 1,224. 7 times 8. So I always tell students, come up with a method that works. I understand that all of you guys have not mastered your facts. That's okay. Count by sevens. 7, 14. If you double 14, it's 28. So that's 4 sevens. And if 4 sevens is 28, and you double that, it's 56. That's 8 sevens. So 7 times 8 is 56. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 5 is 19. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. And then 7 times 7 is 49. So that answer is 49,896. This is homework, this is homework, this is homework, and this is homework. And these will be in a Google Doc found in your Google Classroom. So you're just going to go ahead and open up that Google Doc when I'm done here, and you're going to rock out this practice work. And then let's, just as I promised, I will do the area model for 21, 22, 25, and 26, and then you guys can get rocking on your homework. So 24. So the way that we do it is we have 24 here, and then we're going to break this into 20, or I'm sorry, it's 15. So we're going to break this into 10 and 5. And I can go ahead and go over. So up here is 24 times 10, which is easy. It's 240. And then over here is 24 times 5. I know that's 120. But if you don't know that, then go ahead somewhere on your paper, do 24 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 10, 11, 12. So that's 120. Now somewhere we just need to take our 240, we need to take our 120, and we need to add those together. 0 plus 0 is 0, 4 plus 2 is 6, and 2 plus 1 is 3. That answer is 360. Okay? Now we have, let me erase all my very neat handwriting. Now let's do 28 times 92. And just to remind you from yesterday, we could do where we break them both into two numbers. That's 20 and 8. That's 90 and 2. I kind of like today's better because it's really easy to cross off a 0 and add it to your answer, but that's okay. 20 times 90. Well, 2 times 9 is 18, and then add your 0. This would be 8 times 90. Well, 9 times 8 is 72. Add your 0. I'm going to write that over here because I'm going to have to write it separately anyways when I add them all together. It's 720. Down here we have 2 times 2, which is 4, and add the 0, so it's 20 by 2. And then over here it's 8 by 2, which is 16. So we have 40, and we have 16. First thing you always do is add all these together, which is 6. Then we add these. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 8 is 15. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. 2,576. And remember, guys, it's important that you're not using a calculator and you're learning some method to do this on your own, because you're going to have a lot of tests in life, like the test that you need to use to get into college, next year's math, where you're going to be required to know how to do this, star math. So it's very important that you learn how to multiply with double-digit numbers on your own without a calculator. Okay. And then down here we have Max rode his bike 44 miles for 28 weeks, every week for 28 weeks. So we just have to do 44 times 28 using any of the methods that we've learned. So 44 times 28 I'm going to use the method that we were working on today. Up here, I can put either 44 or 28. And then over here, I got to separate the other number. Okay, so 44 times 2 is 88. And then add my 0. And then we have to do 44 times 8. So anywhere on the side, do that problem. 8 times 4 is 8. 16, and then double that, which is 32. This is 32, plus 3 is 35. So that is 352. Now, I just need to add these together. That's 2, 5 plus 18, or 13, and then that's 10, 11, 12. So that's 1,232. And then last but not least, we have our last problem here. We have 35 and 25. You know what? I'll do traditional here for all my traditional friends out there. We have 5 times 5, which is 25. And we have 5 times 3, which is 15, plus 2. 15 plus 2 is 17. Okay, now that was 35 times 5. Now we have to do 35 times 20. So 35 times 20, the first thing you do is you add your 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Gets kind of messy, huh? 2 times 5 is 10. Don't forget to add this to your answer. 3 times 2 is 6, plus the 1 is 7. 5, 7, 8. Ooh, that's a nasty looking 8. So that answer is 875 since we're looking for area at square inches. All right. I hope you have a great weekend. Remember, complete these 4 questions, which is a Google Doc. Have a phenomenal weekend. And oh my gosh, I cannot wait to be back on Monday. I'll see you guys Monday.